Happy Veterans Day. I hope if you have somebody in your family who's served, you are showing them some love and respect today. And yeah, Corey, you're a vet.
Oh.
So Corey, were you already deployed? Or you just go through basic?
I went through basic, and I was there for like 9 months.
9 months.
Well, not basic.
Okay. Well, hey, thank you for your service. And guys, if you see somebody who has served today, take a moment to stop and thank them. My father was U.S. Army. My uncle was U.S. Army. I didn't personally serve, but I have a lot of respect for people who have. So whatever branch of the service you people have served in, show them some respect today. Guys, we're going to be finishing up chapter 6, and then we have one more chapter that we're going to be doing our second test, which is on chapters 4 through 7. A reminder that the final one here is not cumulative. And another little bonus. You guys are going to benefit from a collective bargaining agreement in the 2003 class. And in fact, I'm canceling this class on Friday as well. We're going to make it a happy day for everybody. So, in truth, canceling that class frees me to go present at a conference too. So I will be traveling for School of Business. I'm not just blowing the day off. But Friday, we're not going to be meeting as a class. As I did mention, I am going to be going through some chapters online as well. But guys, we're going to start off today with a little bit of discussion. We talked a lot in this class so far this semester that there are certain populations that are having a very difficult time making it into the workforce. When we start talking about those kinds of populations, something that pops to mind are incarcerated persons. And we're going to show a brief video for you to lead us in a little bit of discussion in terms of why this is a population we should be considering when it comes to recruiting and retaining high-quality standpoint. Why should we be considering what we can do in terms of integrating second chance jobs? Why is this something we should be thinking about as a society? What are your thoughts? Why are the reasons we should be considering this? Yes? Yeah. Why should we be considering second chance job seekers? Why should we be considering previously incarcerated persons as sources of recruiting? Yeah, go for it.
I feel like it serves as an example, to society, saying that people are human, people mess up, and your life isn't over if you mess up. You still have another chance to do better. So it encourages being better.
So there's an ethical approach to this. We're doing the right thing by giving somebody a second chance. Yes.
They can help the economy if you give more jobs to second chance job seekers. Because if they can't find a job and they're just doing something, say, for minimum wage, it's not going to do anything for the economy.
Yeah, so we're also talking about the idea that these folks can be active participants in the workforce and can contribute to our overall economy. Corey?
Kind of piggybacking off what you said. Like you said, the effect of the economy. I mean, right now, the unemployment rate is like 4%, like you say all the time. These people can help employers and companies fill like roles that they need that other people are not no longer seeking because they have jobs that they are doing.
So we start resolving some of that labor shortage. Yes.
Also, help them not do another bad thing after they get out because they can't find a job and they just resort back to what they were doing.
They call that recidivism, by the way, and that's a very big problem. Yes.
I was just on the Google Doc for Natchez and Morgan Stanley about the second chance jobs.
Yeah.
And it's actually pretty limited. Pretty much truck drivers or I found a restaurant manager one. But it's pretty limited. But I guess some of it had decent pay, like the restaurant manager was 40 to 60K.
Mm-hmm. Well, some of the issues that people run into, for example, if you get busted for a financial crime or a computer crime, that could limit literally what you're legally able to do. Like somebody who was busted on a federal charge for computer hacking literally could have a condition of their release that they're not allowed to touch a computer or a smartphone. If you have somebody, for example, who was investigated for financial crime or got arrested for money laundering, well, there goes banking or payroll. You can't do those jobs either. Is there another reason besides, because we've got the ethical, we've got the idea we're going to be contributing to the workforce, we're going to keep people from returning to jail. Is there another reason from any standpoint we should be considering second chance job seekers too? Yes? He ultimately started. So yeah, absolutely. Here's the other trick, guys. Let's say somebody gets out of federal prison or state prison or any kind of prison, and they're unable to find work. Where ultimately are they going to find their income from? If they don't return to crime, who's going to support them? If you earn a paycheck in the United States, raise your hand. If you earn any money at all, you're paying income tax, and your tax dollars will be supporting those individuals. So there's reasons behind that. Here's some other stats for you guys in terms of our incarceration rate. We in the United States have the highest incarceration rate in the civilized world, at 655 individuals per 100,000. And what's even more alarming is we've had, look at the increase. In the past 40 years, our incarceration rates have gone up by 500%. Has crime increased by 500% in the United States? No, there's a whole lot of people who are sitting in jail who are not violent offenders, who are not people who can't be around children. We're talking about people who had the misfortune of making a bad decision on something like being a pot dealer when the drug laws were much more strict than they are now. We're talking 1 in 5 people who are in jail in the United States are in jail for drug charges. These are things to think about too, guys. I know I've had some recent experience. I don't mean to sound like I'm an expert because I've been in prison a couple of times for FCI Loretto. But when we start meeting these folks, guys, we're talking about folks who are highly educated. Some of the folks who we've talked to over there worked in finance, worked at Wall Street. We have other folks who've received training while they're in prison. Like, I met a gentleman who got his HVAC certificate while he was in prison. Some folks get their bachelor's degree while they're in prison. So we're talking about people who literally could be a very big part of our economic recovery if we gave them a chance. I encourage you to think about that because we're talking about recruiting. I don't believe that when somebody makes one mistake that it should ruin the rest of their life. I mean, some mistakes maybe. You kill somebody in cold blood, yeah, that's a whole other thing. The guy who gets busted for a stupid drug dealing offense at 18, I don't think should sit in jail until they're 70. Here's the other trick, guys. Let's say you're in jail for 20 years or 25 years. You get incarcerated when you're 18 or 20 years old. You spent that time behind bars. What happens when you get out? Why is it so hard to make it on the outside? Yes? The world has changed. If you can think, I swear to God, I would love it if I could freeze this moment in time and 20 years from now talk to everybody in this class to find out how much things in their lives have changed just from the things we experience every day, whether it's smartphones or whether it's this ridiculous cat meme that's taking over social media. Have you guys been following the cat meme, which is awesome? There's a bunch of central Pennsylvania ones too. They're fantastic. But the world moves pretty quickly. Guys, today we're going to be finishing off this chapter, so we're going to move at a pretty good clip, but I also do not want to prohibit time for discussion or questions, so we will be stopping occasionally for a question. As we've got some crossover with my Management 203 in this class, guys, labor unions are a source of recruiting as well. For anybody, actually this question is open for anybody. The difference between recruiting from a labor union and recruiting from a traditional source of employment. A traditional source of employment, you're generally looking for traditional recruiting for who has the right skills, knowledge, and abilities. If you're recruiting out of a labor union, what's the number one criteria? Who gets the best jobs in labor unions? Yep. Anybody know what we call that concept? Seniority. Tenure's good too. That's a good description. Generally speaking, it's seniority. So when we're recruiting through a union, for example, seniority is part of it. Or we could do something, for example, if I'm recruiting a new electrician, if we have a union shop, I can go to the local union hall, and it may be a matter of who has the right qualifications to do that job. We can also do job fairs at this point in time. I think that virtual job fairs are okay. I think there's still a lot to be said for going out, meeting some employers, shaking hands and pressing the flesh, as the old term goes. What can you learn from somebody just by meeting them in person? What can an employer learn about you? As opposed to getting an email. What can somebody learn about you? Anybody. Help me out, guys. The quicker we go, the quicker we get through the chair. Absolutely. So if we met for the first time, what are some things you could learn from me just from one conversation? Exactly. It just comes across in your personality. The old expression is you get one chance to make a first impression. Unfortunately, I think there's truth to that, but it also means you have an opportunity to maybe convey some things that don't come through on your resume. If you saw my resume, you'd see where my master's degree was from. You'd see what jobs I currently work. What you wouldn't see is that I have a firm handshake. What you wouldn't see is that I like to think my facial hair is pretty well groomed today. And I feel pretty good about myself. I spent some time trimming my beard. Everything's right with the world. Those are things you only learn about somebody in person. And as the old expression goes, how a person does one thing is how a person does everything. What do I mean by that, by the way? How a person does one thing is how a person does everything. Am I wrong?
Our coaches will say that all the time.
Our coach does it all the time.
What's it mean?
Basically, how you it's like how you do practice, it's how you play the game, and how you do something that you think doesn't matter. It's the kind of person you are.
I love it. And character and integrity. Character is how you act when you think nobody's watching. One of the things that I will admit is my own flaws. If you walk in my office, it's hardly ever in good shape. I am not good. I have too much clutter. My car is also cluttered, and so is my man cave at home. It's a personal habit of mine I need to work on, but it's consistent. Guys, in terms of educational institutions, yes, we want to see that you've got a great GPA. But when you're recruiting from people, whether they're college, trade school, or high school, what are the things that make somebody's resume really pop? What's going to make you stick out to an employer? What do you think? What do you think, Carter? What would make your resume really stick out to somebody? And you being the figure. Yeah, service. What does that say about you?
It's really compassionate, care about community.
Yeah, you're a man of the people. Absolutely. If you belong to a bunch of clubs, all right, Becky, here's your chance to talk about SGA. Why is SGA good on a resume?
Because it's just like you are collaborative, you work with others, you work with administration as well. So you have to be like professional in what you do.
Absolutely correct. If I saw two resumes, and one were a 3.2, and somebody who had been involved in internships, stuff outside the classroom, showed me they could do things besides just go to class, or a 4.0 perfect score, somebody who never left the classroom, I'd rather interview the 3.2 person because that person has actually applied their skills in the real world. It's not all GPA. Yes, GPA is important. Yes, a 3.0 looks great. There are plenty of people with 2.5s who have awesome careers because they worked hard and they built it. Internships, that is one thing I will say, guys. If you have a chance to do one and you don't, you are missing out. Number one, it's a great chance for real-world experience. Number two, employers love it. And number three, if you're a good intern, you might get a good job from the place where you did your internship. And again, high schools can be good to recruit as well. Just to kind of give you some end caps on this stuff. If we're recruiting external to our company, because that's where we're at in terms of external recruiting. Actually, you guys help me out. Let's go through this really quickly. This side of the room, can somebody tell me one advantage of recruiting outside of your company? What's one advantage? Yes. Different set of eyes. This side of the room, tell me one disadvantage of recruiting outside the company. Higher cost. One more advantage over here. What's one more advantage of recruiting external? So you have different set of eyes, different perspectives. What else? Yes. New ideas and skill sets. Over here. Yes.
You might don't know that person really good. Maybe it doesn't fit with the standards of the company.
We don't know if their personality's right or not because we can come across however we need to come across when we're talking to people. You nailed it, guys. So the advantages are we can get new ideas, new perspectives, new skills, increase the skill of the company. The disadvantages are we might pick somebody who doesn't fit. We also may demoralize people inside our own company who are saying, why am I not getting hired? And by the way, do you guys realize in terms of from the time somebody's hired, let's say if we took all new hires in the United States, from the time that person walks through the door till the time they are considered to really be efficient and effective, how much time does that take on average?
3 months.
We got to guess for 3 months. It's more. It's about 6 months. So let's think about this. If you have an entry-level salary for somebody, let's say we have an entry-level salary of $75,000 a year. You guys are doing pretty good with your entry level. Will somebody do the math for me on their phone or their computer? Let's divide, actually it's $75,000. Let's divide that by 2. What do we get? So let's take 37,000 and let's divide that by 12. That'd be the number of pay periods. How much is it?
It's 3 point something.
So 75,000 divided by 2, then we're going to divide it by 12. What do we got? And, I'm sorry?
3.125.
3.125. So we're talking about $3,000 a paycheck we're wasting on somebody who's not going to be productive for 6 months. That's a pretty big deal to a company. I don't mean to say wasting, but it means it's sunk cost. It's development, guys. And in terms of things we have to think about when we're recruiting from colleges, here's one of the things I want you guys to think about. When you do an internship, when you do a job shadow, when you meet a mentor, you guys are the advertisement for St. Francis University. You guys are our brand. So if somebody has a negative experience with somebody from our school, that's a reflection on us as well. That's how these relationships get built over time. And if you want to know, for example, why instructors are so careful about writing letters of reference, it's because we're giving you a seal from the university. We're giving you a sign of approval to say this person is quality. We want to maintain that brand. I will say this, guys, and I never name names. In the history of the time I've been teaching, I have denied people from giving the letters of reference because there are folks who were nice people who I liked a lot who were not good workers and did not reflect our brand well. I didn't write the letter for them. So when we're recruiting out of college, we're going to be considering what kind of experience do we have with people who came from there, what kind of experience do we have with the program in general. One of the big reasons, for example, in the School of Business, why employers love our school, I'm going to give you 2 reasons why. John Miko and Randy Fry. Those guys make our brand known, they network, and they give opportunities for employers to come in here, and they handpick people to put in front of them. And that's how they position us well with those employers. So that's exactly why it's important. Now, we also know, guys, we're going to be spending good money over bad, as the old expression goes, which means we're going to be tracking where our money goes. If we're doing online advertising, if we're advertising through LinkedIn or a job service, we can tell how many hits we have and how many hires we made based on how many people actually came into our recruiting funnel. It's good to be able to track that stuff. We also want to see how much time it takes to fill these openings. If it's taken forever to fill a job, what could be the reason? What could be a potential reason if it's taking you forever to fill an open position? What could be the problem? Any thoughts? What could be the reason why it's hard to hire somebody? I'm sorry?
It's a very specific job.
Yeah, so maybe the skill sets are hard to find. So a child psychiatrist, for example, in the United States is really hard to hire, yes. Yeah, are we not paying them? Do we look at what our competitors are paying? Are there other reasons we can have a hard time firing somebody? Or hiring somebody, I should say. Firing's not easy either. What could be another reason why it's hard to hire somebody?
They're not getting on the jobs available.
Maybe we didn't reach that population. Maybe we are not hitting the right folks. It's also possible, guys, we got a bad reputation. If you're a company that all of a sudden nobody wants to come work for you even though the salaries are good, there could be an issue. We want to keep an eye on how much it's costing us to advertise. And also, you might even ask, for example, when you hire somebody, why might you ask them about their recruiting experience? Why might you want to know what kind of experience they had? Yes?
Like determine if they're doing it well or if it was like hard for them to get through the process and made them like not want to continue.
Exactly right. Did we do a good job recruiting you? Did you feel welcome? Did you want to sign immediately? What convinced you? One of the things, for example, I hear all the time. Anybody I talk to in this room who was recruited will give me a story in terms of what made their decision to come to St. Francis. For some folks, for example, it was meeting a specific coach. For some folks, it was meeting a specific instructor. For some folks, it might have been something about the facility, seeing Schwab Hall. We want to know what's drawing people in. We also want to see, for example, looking back, if we recruited 100 people, hired 100 new applicants, how many of them did we keep and how many of them were good performers? So things we can look at, for example, are how long it takes to fill a job, what kind of processes are available. Yield ratios means how many people do you get who are applying for a job based on an advertisement, again, right out of our text. Out of those applicants, how many people do we actually pick to interview and hire? How many people take the offer? And finally, what kind of success rates are we getting? So a yield ratio means if we look at from one stage of the hiring process to the next, how many people come through the funnel? How many people, in terms of selection rate, do we hire? If we have a really good recruiting pool, for example, and we end up hiring 85% of the people who end up applying, that's pretty good. Your acceptance rate can tell you a lot. Let's say, for example, we had good yield ratios and we had a good selection rate that we offered jobs to 85% of the people who came through. We had really quality candidates, but only 40% of those folks accept the offer. What could that say to us about the conditions that were offered? It's not a great acceptance rate. What could it say?
We could have competitors that are offering better ones.
Exactly right. We want to know what that is. And finally, the success-based rate, what that basically means is that long-term, how many people are sticking with our company? How many people are not leaving? So here's an example of how this stuff can work. We love pyramids in business. So we have, for example, we had 100 initial contacts. That could be people who we recruited online, who saw our website, saw our advertisement, whatever. Out of that 100, 30 people decided to fill out an application. We interviewed 15 of them in person. We gave 10 offers, and 5 people were hired. That's an example of how a recruiting pyramid would go. Turn that upside down, and you've got the classic marketing funnel. It's not really all that different. It's a similar concept. So in terms of how we can make our recruiting more effective, the better you are in terms of actually getting good information off somebody's resume, fantastic. By the way, anybody know how long the average recruiter actually reads your resume? 2 to 5 seconds. So in other words, if it actually makes it through that whole process and it lands on somebody's desk and they've got a pile of paper resumes, which people literally still have, they print them out, you've got 2 to 5 seconds to end up in the pile that's going to be evaluated further. That's really how important it is to have a good-looking resume. I see a look on your face. Don't let it through you. You guys all have good things let it scare you. You've already got good things on your resumes. And it's like this. There's lots of jobs out there. Guys, at least right now, there are lots of jobs out there. Don't freak out about it. One of the other things you can also do to make your recruiting effective is make sure you've got some way of letting people know what the jobs are really all about. We're going to watch a job preview that was posted by Sheets. They actually do a really solid job of letting people know what their jobs are all about. I want you to watch this video and tell me what you pick up. What did we learn? What can you tell me about the job of assistant store manager? Yeah, she definitely likes the donuts, for sure. Unless she's this big around, she likes the donuts. What else do you guys notice from the video?
A little bit of everything.
You do. I mean, this person, they're basically sitting there on their feet the entire time. Yes?
It's very hands-on.
Yeah, if you enjoy sitting behind a desk, this is probably not the management position for you. Did she say anything that might have been a negative aspect of the job to some people? Yes? Yeah, and she even said that a lot of energy. They didn't hide that this is a very demanding job. Did you catch also when she has to work? Yeah, she's working nights. A lot of people don't like night shift work. They don't like having to be busy constantly. They didn't really pull too many punches. I think if you want to work for that company doing that job, you're gonna earn your pay. There's no two ways around it. That's why I think that's a very effective recruiting tool. They're not lying to you. If somebody tells you it's a cake job and you get in and realize this is a lot more than I bargained for, you're going to feel lied to and your retention rates are going to be terrible. So eventually, if you're looking at the data you're gathering from all these things, you can change the way in which you recruit. You might want to go after bigger markets. You might want to use different methods. If I'm recruiting people in your generation, I'm not putting a lot of time into ads in the newspaper, for example. You also have to train your recruiters. And that means that not everybody is an awesome recruiter. Somebody who will go out and tell somebody everything they want to hear to try to get them to come to work for your company is not a good recruiter. That's not somebody who's going to pull in the right people. I think that good recruiters are people who are able to tell you what's good about the job, but who can also be honest with you about the job. True story. When I was doing my interview process with Dr. Fry and Dr. Miko and the search committee, they were very upfront with me to say, Mr. Tonkin, if you take this job, we expect you to be working on your doctoral degree. We expect you to be advising students. We expect you to do things outside the classroom. They didn't pull those punches. So when I walked in, I knew what the deal was. I was not surprised. As a result, for their consistency and their honesty with me, that built a lot of integrity in my mind, in my view of those folks as well. That being said, guys, that is Chapter 6. And so we're going to be covering Chapter 7 starting on Wednesday. Do we have class on Friday? We do not. So, guys, enjoy your day. Those of you who are traveling with me tomorrow, stick around.